土字就很清楚，土字，舌头就会很清凉，不会上火。然后眼中过，眼睛肝开窍于目，眼睛通着肝，对不对？肝开窍于目，肝藏魂，肝藏着三魂：生魂、觉魂、灵魂。肝藏着三魂，都通着眼睛，所以眼睛像太阳一样光明朗照，要看得很明白，很明白，非常光明。子曰：“学而时习之。”每一个字你要看清楚，不能模模糊糊的，不可以看明白，非常光明。用眼睛照住这个字，要明明白白。眼睛，所以睛从眼中过，要明明白白，看清楚明白啊。肝就得到了滋养，肝开窍于目，眼睛。睛从耳中入，通肾，肾开窍于耳，肾开窍于耳。在中医里面，肾开窍于耳。念这个字，子曰：“学而时习之。”你要听得很清楚，每一个字声音都很圆润，很清楚，要能够听到。子曰：“学而时习之。”肾气就聚起来了，气就进入了肾。你只要一听见，就落到这儿了啊。然后精从阴中出，通着肺，肺开窍于哪儿？鼻子，肺开窍于鼻，所以那个音，子曰，这个鼻子一捏住，不出声音，声音就不圆了。所以音要圆润，从鼻子出来。子曰：“学而时习之，不亦乐乎？”发的音，五音要圆润。所以精从阴中出，它通着肺，精从窍中落，通着脾，知道怎么说吗？spleen，通着脾。那整个我们说脾，人中通于脾，人中这儿，人中通于脾，所以精从心中起，清清楚楚；精从眼中过，明明白白；精从耳中入，气要沉降下去啊。要沉降下去，精从阴中出，五音要圆润；精从窍中落，落地有声，落到这个窍里边。窍是什么？窍就是我们的丹田、气海穴，肚脐下面4横指，每一个字都要落到这个窍里。所以我们要用意念守住这儿。子曰：“学而时习之，不亦乐乎？”哒哒哒哒哒哒哒哒哒，把这本经全落到窍里边，我们就有能量了，它就没有散掉，落到我们的窍里。所有的字都落到一个窍里， 它通于脾，所以心中起，眼中过，耳中入，阴中出，窍中落。窍中落，这是一个太极图。这个叫什么呢？五名，五名啊，五名，你看，1、2、3、4、5，这就是我们的五脏，五脏才能出现太和元气。当我们按照精从心中起，精从眼中过，精从耳中入，精从阴中出，精从窍中落，五脏就达到了高度的和谐太和状态。这个就叫做德，和谐，太极的和谐。从这个读书当中，儒学里面告诉我们，是以养德而尽性。通过养德，而尽性，是通过对道德的修养。德是什么？德就是和谐之气。五脏的和谐之气，就是德的物质基础。我们五脏的气和谐了，人就有了和谐之气。这和谐之气，肝主什么？仁啊，肺主义，心主理，肾主志，脾主信。所以仁义礼智信，这五德在五脏里面藏着，五德藏在五脏里面，仁义礼智信在我们的五脏里藏着。通过我们读书，心中起，眼中过，耳中入，阴中出，窍中落，达到和谐，我们就有了德。德的具体表现，仁义礼智信。所以腹有五脏，这里边有五脏，而生五气，有五种气，青黄红白黑。肺是青色的气，肝是青色的气，肺是白色的。肝是青色的，肺是白色的，心是红色的，肾是黑色的，脾是黄色的。所以青、红、黄、白、黑五气，五种气。腹有五脏而生五气，心藏五德，仁义礼智信，然后而生五性，温良恭俭让。这就是太极对于这个文化的抛弃。我们的祖先对于这个文化的抛弃，在五脏里面。所以通过读书，孔老夫子通过读书就把我们的仁义礼智信修养完成了，在读书当中就完成了。所以这里边很讲究，不是单纯的我们拿起书来就读啊，拿起书来学而时习之，不亦说乎，这样就没有效果啊。我们正身凝神端正，然后按照心中起，眼中过，耳中入，阴中出，窍中落，慢慢，我们就读进去了。我们的人才能跟这个《论语》变成一。通过什么？言 耳、鼻、舌、身，通过这个相合就变成一了。所以它有严格的方法，不是随便读。我们的祖先很了不起，他研究出了这些非常科学。所以我们从小孩子、企业家读的时候都是这样，很快就进去，按照这个标准去做。自古以来我们就是这么做的，这是有传承，这样传下来。没有传承，在大学里边，如果说是教授没有经过传承的学习，也不懂，他也是拿起来就这么读，并不知道这个与五脏的关系，人跟天地万物的关系都搞不清楚，只是这书本就是书本，顶多从字面上面是什么，那就很浅。所以这是文化传承才有的东西。因此我们这一次来天真园，我就把这个真的东西告诉大家，你们再读就进去了啊。下面我们就读一段，好不好？
好。
好，请大家正身一，
学而益一。
起。子曰：学而时习之，不亦说乎？有朋自远方来，不亦乐乎？人不知而不愠，不亦君子乎？有子曰：其为人也孝悌，而好犯上者贤矣。不好犯上而好作乱者，谓之有也。君子务本，本立而道生。孝悌也者，其为人之本与？子曰：巧言令色，鲜矣仁。曾子曰：吾日三省吾身，为人谋而不忠乎？与朋友交而不信乎？传不习乎？因为孔子所有的弟子对于他的老师都是非常恭敬的。那我们看孔老夫子的所有的弟子在向他学习和问道的时候，都是以忠诚虔诚的心。我们要想理解他们问的道，要想理解孔老夫子所传的道，我们的心也必须进入那种恭敬的气场，所以我们才能理解他在说什么，就能理解文字的后面蕴含的大量信息。道既在这个书上，又不在书上。我们说它在书上，是通过文字承载着道；不在书上，是说文字不能完全表现道，因为一执着于文字，就不知道道的本了。所以老子在《道德经》里面就说：道不可言。道是没有办法说的，只要一说就错。但是为什么我们要想了解道，还必须要读呢？这就是刚才我们说的五音：心中起，眼中过，耳中入，阴中出，窍中落。通过五脏五音的和，我们最后落到了什么上面？仁义礼智信，对不对？仁义礼智信是什么？是德，对不对？德从哪里来？德从道中来，对吧？我们把德五音具足了，五脏达到和谐之气了，然后透过这个德，我们才能知道道。这就是我们要入进去的阶梯。所以我这一次跟大家一起共同的学习我们祖先的文化，是带着一种共同学习，把这一个入门的阶梯搭起来，我们一起往上走。 我带着大家往里面走，慢慢的我们就进去了，就进到孔老夫子所传授的道体当中。他是通过德的修养进入道的体，我们才知道孔老夫子在说什么。这就是心法。孔老夫子，对，好。那我们由于时间的关系，我们再来读一遍，好不好？好。
crops are more easy to manage because trees are much bigger, their roots are deeper, they are more robust. So I went in for fruit type cultivation. We have a lot of mango orchards, mango, pineapples, pomegranate and things like this. Pomegranate, yeah. And I have a factory to make dried fruits. We all know dried fruits. Whenever people say dried fruits, people only think of dates and raisins. Yeah, these are the only two dry fruits most people know. But every fruit could be made into a dry fruit. And so we make dried mangoes, dried pineapples, dried papayas, and at the moment we are exporting only to Europe because in India we get fresh fruits and so there's no demand really for dried products. So this is a little bit about my background. And we have an association in India called the Biodynamic Agriculture Association. Have you heard of this word, biodynamic? No. Okay. We have a very strong association in India for this biodynamic agriculture. And at this point of time, I seem to be heading this association as its president. Anyway. But for the last 3-4 years, you can say, I have 2 daughters, 2 girls who are grown up, and they'd all studied business management and chartered accountancy. So they were very interested to run my business, so I handed it over to my children. And for the last 3-4 years, I'm just traveling wherever people call me to help them with their organic related work. I'm also an official advisor for this biodynamic agriculture. There's a worldwide association, and there are many advisors, as they are called, and I happen to be one of them, and that seems to take me places. I've been coming to China for the last 5-6 years, you can say. I visit different parts of China, and there are many projects where people need help with biodynamic and organic related agriculture. So it gives me an opportunity to see China and to learn from China, and also to share with them what little I know. So that's what brings me here. I came here last week. I went to Chengdu. You've heard of a place called Chengdu? Yes. In Sichuan province. There was some work there. Then a few days I go to Inner Mongolia. There's one big dairy project over there. And then I go to the south of China to a place called Bama, where China has the largest number of centenarians. That is people who live over 100 years old. And that little district has the largest number of centenarians. Women live 100, 120 years in that province. And there's a nice project over there, and I'll be going there in the south, and then to North Korea. So that's a little bit about my background. And I think I told you in the beginning, I had a lot of Malaysian students as my classmates, both in school as well as in the university. So Malaysia is very close to us, and I'm really happy to meet people from Malaysia like you. Okay? So Dr. Eiling has said that we have 2 hours, I think up to 3 o'clock. Okay? So I'm supposed to give you a little bit introduction, open a little window for you to look into what is biodynamic agriculture, and I'll try my best because it's a big subject and you can spend your whole lifetime exploring this mystery of this biodynamic agriculture. But enough to say that I'll try my best to give you a little bit insight into this method of biodynamic agriculture. But before that, I think it would be relevant to first talk about what is meant by organic agriculture. Okay. Can someone tell me, one of you help me with what is meant by organic agriculture? I'm sure many of you know.
No pesticide.
Okay, organic agriculture means cultivating without no pesticide. Okay. What is a pesticide?
Something.
What is a pest?
To kill the pest.
Pest. So what is the pest?
Fungus. parasites.
Yeah, insects that damage our food crops. Okay. So why are these pesticides bad? Why should we?
It will build up immune if we use it without control. It will change the DNA, or it will build up a resistance to the resistant, or it change some resistance. It will increase the resistance for the parasite or fungus towards the pesticide.
Okay.
So it will cause in future, if you use the same thing to the same plant, it won't help.
It will not help.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that all, or so that is definitely you're right. That's a very good point. That means what you're saying is insects over time develop an immunity. You keep using chemicals, and after 4 or 5 generations, that insect learns how to adjust to this chemical, and then it becomes strong.
Another point is pesticide will change pH for the soil. It will also change pH and.
Okay, you mentioned soil. Okay. Change the soil. Yeah.
You will cause dilution, pollution.
Okay.
Water pollution.
Water. Soil, water.
Air pollution, which is big.
Air pollution also, air, of course, you're right. And one very important thing is also connected to this pesticide. Our food. Okay. So all the chemicals that are used, it's like a boomerang. You know the boomerang? What the Australians do, you throw it, and it goes and comes back to the same place. In India, we have a concept called the karma. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yes.
Karma is also something like this. Whatever you sow, you reap. Okay? Same is the case with these pesticides. We keep throwing a lot of chemicals on the soil or on the plants. Eventually, all these chemicals come back to us. And how do they come back to us? They come back to us in the form of the water we drink. Most of the water that we drink are heavily polluted. Okay? Unless if you are lucky to live near a forest area and you are getting fresh spring water coming, most of the water are polluted with chemicals. Okay? There are 2 types of chemicals that pollute the water. One is chemical fertilizers. You mentioned the pesticides, but there are also chemical fertilizers. So all these chemical fertilizers, when they are applied on the soil, it does not mean all the plants take up all these chemicals into the body, into themselves. Nearly 60% of the chemicals eventually go down to the groundwater. Okay? And then they join the aquifers, and then ultimately they all go to the sea. But eventually we also get contaminated with these pesticides through water pollution. Okay? And another very interesting thing that is very well known all over the world now is that these pesticides also contaminate our food. Okay? So there is a thing known as residue analysis. Pesticide residue. Okay? It's called a residue. And most of the food that we eat, if you analyze it, there will be different traces of chemicals. Okay? And we all know too much of chemicals in our body is not good. Maybe a little bit we can tolerate, but every day we are eating a lot of chemicals. It gets accumulated in our fat in the body, and eventually for different people it causes different types of reactions. Cancer is a very well-known effect of chemical food, and also a lot of people, it actually reduces even the fertility of human beings. Okay? There are a lot of people who cannot have children, and one important reason attributed to it is because there is too much of chemicals in the body that it sort of kills all the life-giving properties within our body. Okay? Anyway, we'll come back to the question of organic agriculture. So organic agriculture, in a different way you can say, organic agriculture is agriculture done without the use of any, not only pesticides, we can generally call it as agri-chemicals. Agriculture chemicals. Okay? So pesticides is just one part of the agri-chemicals. There are many, many things that are used along with the pesticides. There is chemical fertilizers, there are chemical weed killers. Everywhere in the world they use chemicals to kill the weeds that grow in our crops, between our crops. So that is a major problem. And then people use a lot of chemical growth hormones. You know, growth hormones, some chemical you put and you trick the plant to grow bigger. Okay? And these growth hormones also have an effect on us. Okay? Can any of you tell me how long man has been doing agriculture? How long have we been doing agriculture?
I think there's a human being that's agriculture.
Yeah.
When human beings start agriculture start.
Yes, China 5,000 years ago, there is enough proof that people were cultivating rice at least 5,000 years ago. Alright? Man earlier was what is known as a hunter and gatherer. You know, in India we have a lot of tribal people. Maybe in Malaysia you have, I don't know. But there are people who live still in the forest and who live by hunting and gathering. Okay? They will collect different honey, wild honey. There are many yams, roots, you know, like potatoes growing in the forest. They know how to collect these things. They know different edible plants. So this is gathering. And they go with bows and arrows and kill monkeys or squirrels. And this is how most people lived all across the world for a long, long, long time. Till settled agriculture probably came first in China, yes, but we know that Iraq and maybe Iran, all of them are one big, you can say a cultural group. They say Iraq was one of the first places where many of these wild plants were first domesticated. Okay? Zarathustra was one of the earliest people who is supposed to have brought agriculture to human beings as we know it. Anyway, so what I'm trying to tell you is that man has a long history of cultivating and eating food. Alright? But it is only in the last 30 or 40 years we've resorted to chemical farming. Would you agree with me? Would you agree that chemical farming is of recent origin? Yeah? It is not like 100, 200 years old. It's maybe 50 years old only. Okay? Whereas man has been cultivating for 5,000 years, at least, food production. But now, the last 30, 40 years, we are using mostly chemicals worldwide. Whether it's developed country, developing country, everywhere people are using chemicals. And this was earlier known as the Green Revolution. You heard the Green Revolution? The Green Revolution was a big step in agriculture production. Started mainly, the research was done in the Philippines, in Manila. There was an International Rice Research Institute. It was called IRI, I-R-R-I, International Rice Research Institute. And there, what they did is they collected rice varieties from all over the world and they started breeding them, crossing one with the other, trying to develop a rice variety that can give much more production than what the older varieties were giving. All right? So, and eventually after 5 or 6 years of research, they came up with what were known as super seeds. Okay? Super seeds. They are nice names for this. Whereas if an earlier old type of seed, rice, was giving maybe 2 tons per hectare of paddy, the Green Revolution seeds gave about 8 tons, 3 times, 4 times more yield than what the earlier old varieties were giving. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? To have more yield?
Could be good, could be bad.
I think it was good. because there was more production. In India, there were a lot of people dying of starvation, millions of them dying. Yeah, even China had its little problems in the 60s during Chairman Mao's time, when several million people died, they say, of food shortages. But India, we were definitely a basket case, and Indians would wait for ships to come from the USA so that our people could be fed with wheat and things like this, and powdered milk and all this. So the Green Revolution gave a big boost to food production, and there's much more food available in the world now because of, you can say, the Green Revolution. But, like our friend said, everything has its plus and minus. Increasingly now people have realized that chemical farming, although it has done a lot of good, it's time to take stock of what is happening and trying to make some adjustments so that we can try to get rid of some of these bad aspects of chemical farming. Okay? So that is how this word organic agriculture came about in modern times. Okay? Although we know earlier people, whatever they did was organic agriculture, but now we have to define it as organic agriculture because everyone is doing only chemical farming. One of the earliest people to sensitize the world about the harmful effects of chemical farming was a lady in the USA called Rachel Carson. And she wrote a wonderful book. In fact, you should read this book. It's called The Silent Spring. Okay. This springtime. Okay. Spring, not a water spring, but spring in terms of the season. Okay. You hear something?
Yes.
Birds are singing.
Birds sing.
Okay. But Rachel Carson talked about a time in spring. Normally the birds sing. You hear the birds are happy because after a long winter there's still greenery coming, there's food to eat, birds are really happy and they are singing. But Rachel Carson talked about a spring when there were no birds and the spring was silent. Okay? And she talks about, earlier in the USA they were using a chemical called DDT. You heard of the DDT? DDT is a deadly chemical.
Deadly chemical.
Very bad chemical.
Poison.
And in the 1940s and 50s, it was fashionable to use the DDT. They would go on aeroplanes and they would spray the whole fields with DDT. If there was a big training program going to happen, some 100 people are coming to our place, they would spray DDT everywhere to sterilize the place. The rooms were sprayed to get rid of cockroaches, insects, whatever it was. And everywhere they were liberally using this DDT. This Rachel Carson found that the symbol of America, you know, you see when the American president is giving a nationwide address, you find the American emblem in the front. And what do you see in that emblem? Any of you remember, you have observed? Okay. You see a very special eagle. Okay. The eagle has been a very important bird. The Romans used the eagle. You know, you see the Roman, this thing, they carried their flags and there was the eagle. The eagle is the king of the birds. You know, flies very high, very strong, and all this. And even the Americans had what was known as the American bald eagle. Okay. That was the symbol that was used in the American president's seal. Okay. And they found that this bald eagle was on the verge of extinction. And they could not find out why. There were a lot of eagles before, and suddenly the bald eagle was on its way out. It was nearly becoming extinct. And this Rachel Carson found that it was because of the use of these DDT chemicals that their national bird itself was under great threat. Because the bald eagle would lay eggs, the bald eagle would go and eat insects, or it would eat rats and other animals, little animals that had been eating in the fields. And these chemicals, through these animals, got into the bald eagle. And when the bald eagle laid its eggs, the eggs could not be firm. It would lay the egg and the leg would just collapse. So there was no chance of the next generation continuing. And over a few years, over 10, 15 years, they found the population was dropping dramatically. And it was all attributed to this DDT chemical. And then she wrote this book called The Silent Spring. And that sensitized the whole world about the harmful effects of chemicals. And so Rachel Carson is a very important person in the field of organic agriculture. Subsequently, there have been many, you can say, masters who have been talking about organic farming. There's one very famous Japanese master. His name is Masanobu Fukuoka. You heard of him? Masanobu? So he wrote a book.
Masanobu. He comes from the island Fukuoka, I think. Fukuoka, something like that.
And he wrote a book called One Straw Revolution. One Straw Revolution. And this book also inspired a lot of people. He's dead, unfortunately. He died I think 2 years ago. He came to India as well. And he has a lot of followers, a lot of people who think Fukuoka is really a great master. And he, in his own farm in Fukuoka, he did organic farming. And he wrote out his experiences on how one should do organic farming. All right? So, coming back to the question of what is organic agriculture, you can say organic agriculture is agriculture done without the use of chemical pesticides, but that is defining it in a negative way. So organic farming, you can say, is sustainable agriculture. Agriculture that can go on 100 years from now, 200 years from now. There'll be people living, and they also need to eat. And we should leave behind soils that are healthy enough that can feed the people, the unborn generations who are yet to come. Okay? So you can say organic agriculture, no chemicals, but it is called by different names in different places. Some people call it as natural farming. Natural farming. Some people call it as ecological farming. Some people call it as do-nothing farming. Just let nature do the way it's expected to do nothing. There's another type of farming called as permanent agriculture. It's known as permaculture. In Malaysia, you have a very strong group of the permaculture. Permaculture. In India, some people, some of the more right-wing extremists, they like to call it as Vedic agriculture. Vedic agriculture. Vedas are some of the old books or religious books written long time ago. Those are called the Vedas. And so many Indian people, they like to refer to organic farming as Vedic agriculture. So, enough to say that this organic agriculture goes by different names in different places. Okay? Do you have any questions?
GM food is fall under Green Revolution.
Which one? GMO?
Genetic modification.
Yeah, genetically modified organisms. Yes, that is definitely under chemical farming. Yeah. Please ask questions if you have. Farming earlier was decentralized. So what is meant by decentralized?
Not valid.
Yeah. Let me explain a little more. There are millions of farmers, okay? And every farmer in the old days was totally independent, okay? That means the farmer produced his own fertilizers. He did not depend on some chemical factories which get raw materials from the Middle East or from Iran to make their chemical fertilizers. He was totally independent. He made his own organic fertilizers. The farmer also made his own plant protection measures. The farmer also kept his own seeds. Okay? Every time you grow rice, you look for the best, biggest variety seeds, and then you kept those seeds for the next crop. So agriculture was very, very decentralized. But now, agriculture is completely in the hands of what we call as agribusiness. And this is the big catch in modern times. Agriculture has become a very centralized operation. Okay? The farmer is only a working person. He has lost his complete independence. He has to depend on factories which make chemical fertilizers which come from 10,000 kilometers away or 5,000 kilometers away. Okay.
They were invented in those ancient times.
Not only ancient, very recent times as well. Because people made their own fertilizers.
So before that, they were born to be a farmer naturally. Nobody like you go and show them how to do agriculture.
Yes, they were born into an agriculture family, and from young they knew what agriculture was. Yes.
And without chemicals, fertilizer, they can run
The farm.
farm.
Yes. So that is the whole trick. How do you run a farm without depending on agribusiness right now? Okay? Because agribusiness is one of the biggest businesses in the world. Of course, we know worldwide the biggest industry in the world is what? Can you tell me?
Drug.
Huh? Which one?
Drug.
Drug is very small. Arms, weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. Guns, bombs, that is the biggest industry in the world. Okay? And it's an industry which never gets reported. It's not in the stocks and markets. They don't publish their output, what they have discovered, how much they are making. But worldwide we know the biggest business is the war industry. Okay? Making tanks, making bullets, guns, explosives, land mines, anything, you name it. That's the biggest industry. But one of the next biggest industry is what is known as the agribusiness industry. You can say it is one of the, I don't know if it's the second, but it's among the top 3-4 big industrial groups is the agribusiness. And they say there are about 5 or 6 groups worldwide which control this entire agribusiness. Okay? And they are all invisible. Okay? They don't publicize themselves. We are the biggest agribusiness in the world. No. They have hundreds of companies. Each company is a subsidiary of something else. That is a subsidiary of something, something, something. And ultimately, if you track down, you will find that they are all linked to one of these 5 big agribusiness people. Okay? And these people control the whole world's food production. Okay? And that is bad. That is very bad. Because guys sitting in New York or, I don't know, London, they can manipulate the strings. Okay? So what these agribusiness people do is that they control the chemical fertilizers, they control the production of pesticides, they control the production of weed killers, and most important, now they control all the agriculture seeds. Okay? All the seeds are in the hands of these big villains known as the agribusiness. Because what they have done is they have collected from worldwide, everywhere, wherever there is rice. In India they said there were some 400-500 varieties of rice. They collected all these varieties of rice and they took it to their own laboratories. They are propagating them and they are doing different experiments. Okay? And if the farmer does not keep the seeds with him, if he does not cultivate the seeds the next season, the seed will lose its viability. Okay? So India has lost, not only India, most countries have lost most of their traditional old varieties which farmers have developed over thousands of years. Okay? Those are all gone now. And all of them are sitting in the laboratories of these agri-business companies. And now they control the world supply of agriculture seeds. And the GMO, which you refer to, is one of the derivatives of the seed control. Okay? They are trying to play God. You know, they tamper with the genetic, the genes itself of the plant. Earlier farmers were doing natural selection, breeding as they called it, hybrids. You know, you kept developing the seed, okay, naturally. But now they take it to a lab, they tamper with the genes, and that is what is known as the GMO, genetically modified organisms. So a lot of people have become aware of this big game of this agri-business, and there is a strong move now for people to resist and go against the current flow of agri-business companies. Okay? Do you have any questions? I'm just going through very quickly because I have to compress it very short. But
one question here.
Yes.
Do you think GMO food is good or bad?
It's terrible. I think it's bad. It's extremely bad. Because what they have found in India and other places as well is that these GMO seeds, as they grow, they do flowers, and then these flowers also are contaminated with this GMO. Okay? And the pollen that gets spread by the wind or by the bird, it can actually jump from one plant to the other. And it can contaminate other wild plants as well in nature. Okay? So that is definitely very bad. And we don't know the long-term effects. What they have done researches for 2-3 years, but we really don't know what will be the long-term consequences of this thing. I think GMO is bad. Yeah.
So the farmers have no right to keep the best seed for themselves. They're forced to sell
Yes.
to give
The seeds.
best seed to
The seeds, yes. Not forced, indirectly you can say. What I mentioned was, if I have a seed, rice seed now, okay, I must cultivate it. If I don't cultivate it, after 1 year, 2 years, the seed will lose its viability. It will not grow. Yeah. So what they did in the beginning, the agri-business, they gave good seeds, which gave higher yields. So all the farmers moved to cultivating those seeds, and they forgot about their old varieties. And so most of the old varieties are vanished. They say they are not vanished, but they are sitting, the stocks are still there in some special laboratories with the agri-business people. And they use it for breeding. They cross one with the other and try to bring what I call as the super seeds. Yeah. Okay. So
what we use in organic agriculture is not super seed, it's a natural one seed, is it?
yes, by natural selection, you know, if you have 10,000 plants of soya growing, you'll find maybe 50 plants are growing really well. You know, they are grown first very fast, and then the seeds are giving a big head of seeds. And in the old days, what farmers did, they identified these fast-growing, good plants, and they always gathered the seeds from these plants. Okay, and that is how you develop good quality seeds. Because after all, a farmer also is interested in higher yields. Yeah, he wants higher yields. Only then farming is viable. If I do a lot of investment in the land and I'm not getting enough return, no one will do farming. So farmers are definitely interested in having more yields. Yeah. Especially now. Do you know how many people we are on Earth? Approximately. No? No idea. Anyway, we are about 3.5 billion?
More than that.
No.
More than
I
that.
think that's 2 more zeros, huh?
Yeah, 650.
650? Yeah, I think 650. 6.5 billion people are there on Earth now. Okay? And do you know what the population will be in another 30 years from now?
No.
Anyway, population demographics, they project that the world population will hit a peak between 9 to 10 billion. Not another 300-400 years from now, in just another 30 to 40 years. By 2050, it's expected the world will have about 10 billion people. Which one? Additional of 50% increase in the population. So where are we going to get the food to feed this 3-4 billion people? That is a very, very big, challenging question for which very few people have answers, because there is no more new land to be cleared unless if we clear all your forests in Malaysia or something and start growing, or there's no more land to be cleared. All the land, the Europeans did their first exploration, they conquered the whole of USA, I mean whole of Americas, they colonized, whole of Australia, New Zealand. Where else can we go? There's no more new land to be cultivated. So this is a very big challenge. So can we discuss about it? Can we at least think about it? Maybe many of us may not be around, but I won't be around definitely, but most of you will be there. So what are the solutions is really a big challenge. Can someone give some ideas?
Where should we go really? Because global warming, the iceberg is diluting, water
Yes.
level increase,
Climate
the
change.
land is lesser, but the humans is increased. So we should go to the moon already.
Mars, they're talking about Mars. They're already talking about starting a... But can you move billions of people there to Mars? No. Maybe few families like the Swiss family Robinson, you know, not few families they will send them to Mars, go multiply there. But what about the guys on Earth? Anyway, one solution which I have read, it sounds really attractive and very, very interesting, and is that in the world right now, for every 3 kilos of cereals grown, you know what a cereal is?
Yes.
You know, rice, wheat, corn. All these are the main staple food. Okay? So every 3 kilos of cereals that we are cultivating right now on Earth, we human beings, we are eating only 1 kilo.
To feed animals.
Yeah. Only 1 kilo we eat for our food like we ate today. The remaining 2 kilos we use only to feed pigs, chicken, cows. Okay. And why do we feed chicken? Why do we feed cows?
Because we want to eat meat.
Yes. So there is an argument which says to get 1 kilo of meat, you need 15 kilos of grain, soya, whatever. So every kilo we eat, of meat that we eat, 15 guys could eat 15, could feed 15 people. So there's a strong move by a lot of people who claim that one solution for this increasing, burgeoning population is that we drastically cut down on our meat consumption. Okay? It's more easy for us to talk this in India. Places like China, where China eats a lot of meat. One hell of a lot of meat. America, they eat a lot of meat. Okay? So this could be one temporary solution for the next 40, 50 years. Because the population, which will be 9 to 10 billion, the population demographers say that in 2100, another 100 years from now, the population in 2100 will reduce to 6.5 billion. Okay? It will reach a peak. You take a time, this thing, it will increase like this, and then it will start drastically falling. Okay? And this peak it will reach in 2050, and you can say this is our present 2010, and 2100 we will have the same number as we have today. But then after that they say the population will drastically drop, like how it is dropping in Japan and many of the Western countries, where the population voluntarily decide to have less children. Okay? And so there is still hope for mankind. If we can cross this barrier, this big peak, and survive a few nuclear wars, then hopefully we will make it as a species to the next century. So there is a strong move. I mean, India, a lot of people are pushing for this vegetarianism. Even vegan. You know what vegan is? You've heard of this word vegan? Yeah. What are the vegans? You are a vegan. Okay, so who's the vegan? What is
This week, we are all vegan.
what vegan? All
They are all vegetarian.
Oh, you're not vegetarian. But vegans are people who are not only vegetarians, they also avoid milk and eggs and all these milk-based products. Because a lot of this cereals also goes to feed cows, which give a lot of milk. You know, in Europe there are cows that are like milk factories. They give 30, 40 liters of milk a day. You know, they are bred so much that they can't even stand. You know, they have small legs, big udders and very fat. And you have to milk them 3 times a day. Okay? And you're feeding them, pumping them with 20 kilos, 30 kilos of food every day so that it keeps giving milk. So a lot of people believe that even this milk consumption is in some way not so environment friendly. So vegan would be a good thing, I think. Being vegetarian and also avoiding as much as possible industrial grown milk and eggs and things like that. Does it make sense? Maybe? Vegetarian? You think you're all vegetarians, huh? Why? You're afraid of eating meat in China? No? Then?
This trip is designed as such.
They're the beginner.
You want to experience
How to? You'll have better health. It's more difficult to digest meat. I think when you have vegetarian food, you are definitely in much better health. The body is much lighter. You don't build up so much of fat, and all this digestion of this meat is quite a hard thing. Okay. So we'll go to the next. I'm just throwing a lot of ideas just for you to think about. Still more. And what happens if we have 2 monsoons failure? There's no food production, or food production drops dramatically for whatever reason. What would really happen? No country, every country likes to protect its own interests. Every country wants to protect the interests of its people. No one is really charity, oh, the poor Indians, let's give them food. No one thinks like this. What do I get out of this, you know? Can I make this? This is a business opportunity for me. That's how the world thinks. And so, I think we should really push for vegetarianism. So this is one message, if at all you hear on this organic farming. I think this is one message, that organic farming and vegetarianism go hand in hand. So in organic farming, we have to make a lot of effort to building up healthy soils. Okay. So what is meant by a healthy soil? And where do you get this healthy soil?
From biodynamic.
Yes, we can slowly build up, we can imitate, but Malaysia, you have wonderful soils. Where? In your forest. Have any of you visited your Malaysian forests?
Yes.
You have some of the best forests in the world. Yeah? Sarawak, huh? All these places you have some on your west coast. So, if you visited a forest, you see the soil, really rich black soil, full of humus. Okay? That is the best type of soil that we should aim for. Okay? Our attempt must be to try and imitate nature. And nature is at its best in the evergreen forests in the tropics. Okay? In the evergreen forests, you find healthy soils, you find multiple. So what do you see in a good forest? Let's go to that.
What do we see?
Yeah.
Birds singing.
Okay. All right. Then,
Insects.
which one?
Insects.
Okay, birds, insects. Is anyone cultivating these forests? Anyone spraying pesticides or fertilizer?
No.
It's like a self-regulating system. And any idea how long these forests have existed?
100 years.
Something millions of years. You know, millions of years. This big forest can be there without any human assistance. It can perpetuate itself. It can support birds, insects, wildlife. What else do we see in the forest?
Healthy plants.
Okay.
Waterfall.
Healthy plants. Huh?
Oh, we can
Waterfall.
see. How about invisible? There's a fresh air.
Okay. Good air. What else do you see?
Animals.
Okay. Man is also an. But what you see is a lot of diversity. Okay. You go to a forest, you find not only one oil palm trees. You know, you're clearing all your Sarawak for oil palm. It's not like one oil palm tree all over. You know, it's like 20, 30 varieties of trees. Okay. So this is known as diversity. There's plenty of variety. What else do you see? You cannot see much in the forest. Yeah? Do you see the sunlight in the forest?
No.
No. That's good. Because what does it mean? What does it mean that we don't see the sunlight on the forest floor like we are seeing outside over here?
There are
The
a lot
sunlight.
of leaves. Big
All
leaves.
the different
So what are they doing?
They are doing photosynthesis, creating a lot of
They're
oxygen.
not blocking, they are photosynthesizing.
Creating
They are
oxygen.
optimizing the only free resource we get on earth. And what is that?
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
Yeah, oxygen is free, but sunlight, you know, the whole world is powered by the sun. Okay, the solar, if it were not for the sun energy is what transforms the whole magic of life happens because of the sun and because of the plants. The plant green leaf is where the whole magic of existence is. Okay, the leaves can transform, convert. We are talking about solar panels, solar water heaters, but nature has already designed the best solar absorbing medium, and that is the leaf. So this leaf catches the sunlight, does some special biochemistry, and makes carbon, and that's what sustains life. So one of the crucial things in organic farming or any type of agriculture is that we must try to utilize sunlight to the optimum. And how do you use sunlight to the optimum? By covering our land completely with greenery, so that every bit of our land can absorb the sun energy and convert it into good food and things like this. Okay. This diversity is not only in trees. You don't see in the forest just big trees standing like that, but you see also creepers. Every tree is covered with pepper and all kinds of creepers. You find bushes at the bottom. You find different levels. So the bushes at the bottom, even without sunlight, they can still absorb this diffuse sunlight and grow. So nature's best creation are the tropical evergreen forests, and if we are to survive, I believe that we have to try and imitate nature by having a lot of diversity in our farms, by optimizing the sunlight so that every bit of solar energy is absorbed and converted into carbon or food. Okay? So that's the other message, that you have to look at your evergreen forest next time you go, just observe the wonders of the evergreen forest. In my opinion, the best type of cultivation that I have seen in India are the coffee plantations. Have any of you visited a coffee plantation in Malaysia?
We have tea
plantation. Tea
plantation. Tea is horrible. Because tea is a monoculture, you know. You go to a tea plantation, it looks beautiful, you know. Wow, it looks like a carpet everywhere. But if you look behind this, what is this? It's just one big monoculture. Yeah, you find monoculture. Mono means one. And monoculture means having only one type of plant. Just like Malaysia, you've done a big mistake with your oil palms. That's also a monoculture. I wish they didn't destroy your forest just to plant all these oil palms. But anyway, that's also monoculture. Tea is a monoculture. Yeah? You find, Malaysia, you have a lot of tea plantations, huh? Yes.
Golf also. Golf course.
Of course.
Malaysia also got a lot of golf course. It also kill all the forests.
Yeah. India, we finished all our forests. We have only 8% forests left. At one time, whole of India was one big mass of forest. It was like the Amazon. Brazil, Amazon forest, they say. And little by little, over a few thousand years, we cleared. And now we have only 8% area under tree cover. Maybe Malaysia, you have much more. Anyway, you have a few people. I don't know what's the population of Malaysia.
25 million, right?
26.
Manageable population. In Tamil Nadu, we have 70 million people. Nearly 3 times 70. Yeah? Just in Tamil Nadu. We have some provinces where we have 200 million people. One province, 200 million. There are many countries, you know, a province can have more than a big country like the population of USA. It's there in one province called Uttar Pradesh. It's a very rich area in the Ganges Delta. And anyway, monocultures are bad. And I was talking about the coffee plantation. In India, I've seen coffee plantation where if you go on top of a hill and you look down, it's difficult to make out where the forest finishes and where the coffee plantation begins. Okay? Because the coffee plantation is imitating an evergreen forest. If you go to a coffee plantation, you find there are big trees, jackfruits, different types of timber trees, jamun, syzygium trees, many fruit, big trees are there. And in all these trees you find pepper growing. And in between you find avocados, you find mandarin orange, you find some papayas, and in the understory, the whole understory is covered with coffee. Okay? So in an ideal coffee plantation, you will find at least 15 types of crops growing. And in my opinion, I haven't seen any other better agriculture than a coffee plantation. So I love drinking coffee mainly because I stopped drinking tea because I think tea is bad. Because it's a monoculture, you know, tea, if you've seen a tea bush, tea left to itself can become a big tree. I've seen tea bushes that become big trees. Okay? And tea is like a bonsai. You know bonsai?
Yes.
Yeah. What's a bonsai? Bonsai? Somehow we humans have a fascination for bonsai. We think it's very attractive and all this. So you keep making a plant like a dwarf. It's like breeding a dwarf, like we breed. You know, China, you have beautiful dogs, you know, they're so small. So they're also like bonsais, you know, they breed them. And so many of these tea plantations, the tea bushes are about 100, 150 years old. And you keep on cutting the leaf every week, click, click. So you keep on cutting the leaf. And you never let the tea bush complete its biological function. Yeah? Whereas the coffee, it grows, it puts out a flower, it becomes a seed, the whole cycle is complete, and then we harvest the seed. Whereas in tea, you're all the time clipping, so the plant is like a bonsai. And it's a monoculture. Anyway, I'm not trying to say anything bad about tea, but enough to say that it's a good example of a monoculture that we should try to avoid.
Tea is good for health, coffee is not good for health.
Many people say actually against that. Many people say against that tea is not good for health. Recently, I read the article that I agree.
Yeah, maybe. Tell me.
Okay, I read the article from one famous university that no animal go and eat the tree, plantation, because tea is not, animals eating most of the plantation, but not eat tea. It's not right. Yeah.
There's a lot of tannin.
Don't like not means don't like tea. There is something in the tea that animals don't go
like
there.
Yeah.
Right? So something else there is, but I don't want to tell now. Maybe you don't drink it.
Animals like, you're talking about insects or animals like squirrels?
Actually, there is nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, wild animals don't eat tea. Yeah.
Actually, it was an article I can give to you.
It's basically traditional Chinese culture. She had drinking a
Yeah,
long time.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have tea is high culture.
Even in the many classic books.
Actually, this article said
No, I'm not going to say I shouldn't talk about tea.
actually the culture.
These soils, like in the forest, the evergreen forest of Malaysia, and then it also means working with a lot of plants, not just a monoculture of one species. We should try to have many varieties of crops growing in our garden. These are the two main principles in organic farming. We must have healthy soils, and then we must have a lot of diversity of crops.
Why don't you go to teach the tea farmer to make it diversity just like coffee plantation?
Because tea needs a lot of sunlight, because the leaves need to keep growing. So in a tea plantation, they don't have any trees. Or they may have one tree there, after far away another tree, but not really like in a coffee. And also tea plantations require a lot of people to work. For every acre you need one person. Yeah? So if you have 1,000-acre tea plantation, you need at least 1,000 people. At least in India. Maybe Malaysia you have mechanized the tea harvesting or something like this. So which means all these people have to live in the plantation. So their requirements are also tremendous. They need a lot of firewood for their cooking. And also tea production requires a lot of firewood because you need to do some fermentation and things like this. So mostly around tea plantations in India, I visited many tea plantations. And always you will find the forests around tea plantations are all in a very bad condition. Because the tea plantations themselves will be cutting the forest for burning their boilers and things like that. The workers will be cutting the trees for their cooking their food. So, anyway, coffee is good. Coffee is better rather, not good but better. Okay, so you must be tired. You want to take a 5-minute break? Stretch out.